One of the reasons that I'm here before you today is because someone else wants to be a city manager, and I understand that he will be the new city manager of St. Clair Shores. And I wanted to talk a little bit about public safety as it relates to the city of Saginaw, primarily over the last 2.5 years, so that you as a council and the public understand what's going on with public safety. One of the things we pledged to do when we began the reorganization of police and fire was to keep those issues in front of you so that we're not reacting to issues of potential decreases in workforce, or that we're not reacting to issues of use of the resources that other opinions might think is a better use of those resources, because we have the advantage of doing the research and making what I believe are the best and informed recommendations to you that you're going to get on matters of this. But back to Mr. Ludos. As I said in a statement to the media last week, as a result of his work, the organizational structure of the police department now reflects the city's ability to financially sustain the workforce, more in line with our ability to pay through a service delivery system that is both functional and collaborative. Mr. Ludos was also very instrumental in the transition of leadership in both the police and fire departments, as the incumbent chiefs retired and resigned shortly after his appointment. And that is particularly important because had he not been there with all of the things that we had to do and all of the research that we had to do over the past couple of years, we probably would not have been able to get you the best information and data for you to make the best decisions based on our recommendations. What the public and others seem to ignore, or certainly not speak a whole lot to, as we talk about public safety in the city of Saginaw, as we talk about the role that Phil came to us to fill some 2.5 years ago. Mr. Ludos came to us with a 40-year plus history of public safety management experience in several communities, both in Michigan and in Florida. And that is very important to the understanding of how to go in and do organization development, how to look at all of the intricacies, because that is his background. And I would dare say that the police and fire services have been managed better in the past 2.5 years than it probably was in the previous decades. Now, the purpose for that is because he's a public safety professional. That's why we hired him. In discussing the issues of how to make the entire city, not just the public safety operation, but the entire city, a much more efficient, effective, and high-performing organization. Had he not been here to do the research and to have the meetings on top of everything else and to work directly with what was left of the police and fire departments after the incumbent chiefs left, it would have been a much more difficult process, and it would have been a lot more difficult to share with you the progress that has been made. As a part of my presentation tonight, I'm going to ask Chief Lipe to come up and talk to you about that progress. And I know it's only been about 6-7 weeks into the new fiscal year, but we have some very encouraging news about the effectiveness of our downsized police and fire operations. Downsized, managing decline, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same. Police and fire departments all over the country are battling budget cuts, layoffs, and other means of better managing the resources available for providing these services. In Michigan, according to a research project in public safety delivery systems aimed at providing reliable information on public safety consolidations, there are 57 merged agencies in Michigan. Michigan's total comprises 44% of the total of 128 agencies nationwide. Funded by the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, the program on police consolidations and shared services is operating through Michigan State University. The program seeks to provide data for local units of government to make informed decisions on how best to manage those operations given the emotional and mere opinionated surveys and other instruments used to gauge applicability. More importantly, though, for me, and it should be for you, is that you can't effectively manage a $130+ million budget operation like the city of Saginaw based on emotion and uninformed opinion anonymous or otherwise. The issues of consolidation continue to be on the front burner of the governor's agenda and are certainly a major focal point on how local units of government, cash-strapped to provide services, can evaluate and better manage through performance enhancement driven by models of economies of scale. From a managerial perspective, it makes sense to have one person trained in the practices and experiences of providing these services, which comprise close to 2/3 of the city's discretionary or general fund budget, notwithstanding the special public safety millage that is also dedicated to this function. I think that it would be a mistake to regress into decades of poorly managed service delivery systems, expenditures, and labor-related inadequacies that have plagued the city for so long. And as we continue to develop our organization for the time being, we will utilize the attrition from vacant positions, other than those directly related to grant sustainability or to maintaining the strength of a downsized public safety operation, to meet the budgetary obligations for the downsizing and reorganizing exercise we went through in developing the 2013-2014 budget. As we are not sure of the audited numbers from fiscal year 2013 at this point, it would be unwise to further obligate expenditures in 2014 beyond your currently adopted budget. Again, our goal is to balance current year revenues with current year expenditures as accurately as possible, so that our financial position for fiscal year 2014 is well known before the mid-year budget adjustments. And what all that means is that we're going to be very cautious in moving forward in how we fill positions. We're going to be looking at our organization. What I handed out to you was a copy of the organization chart, and I want to walk through that briefly because it addresses the vacancies that has been left by Mr. Ludos's departure. If you take a look at the organizational chart, you'll see that right under the Office of Management and Budget is an Office of Inspections and Neighborhood Services. The idea here is to have our current inspections department as an offshoot or a division of the city manager's office to enhance the work of inspections, code enforcement, and neighborhood services. Those of you who know the work of Mr. John Stemple, our chief inspector, know that he's very active in the neighborhoods. He's very active in dealing with issues of code enforcement. In fact, when the issue came up regarding the animal attack last week in my absence, when I asked about that and was briefed, found out that he had already done the research and was prepared to offer a briefing on what exactly happened. John is kind of like our utility infielder in the city management team here, because he gets a lot of things done. He's involved in a lot of areas, and you need that in any organization, someone who keeps things from slipping through the cracks. His work with neighborhood associations is also very good, and it's an area that I think we're going to need to develop and cultivate to the strongest possible operational assistance that we can expect, or hopefully we are able to get from the neighborhoods in terms of communication and cooperation. So that'll be the first change. That will be moved from the responsibility of the assistant city manager. The police chief will return to reporting directly to the city manager with regards to the issues of the operations. The chief, as you know, has been very busy over the last year with his appointments. He has some very challenging issues to deal with, but as you'll see when he presents to you this evening, he's more than meeting that challenge. He and the 55 officers that we have risen to the occasion that I think is very worthy of presentation to you this evening. With regards to the firefighting side, I will be meeting with the firefighters union along with my management team this week to solicit their input on leadership up to and including a chief's appointment. My reason for that is that I want to have that discussion with them so that they are a part of and feel like they're involved in our next steps. This is critical because, as you know, there has been numerous discussions about the idea of some consolidation some regionalization. Again, something that I can point to in Mr. Ludos's tenure that has been moved, the needle has been moved further towards a workable plan that we can take now and move forward with and continue those discussions as a result of the work that he did. Meanwhile, I will be working directly with the battalion chiefs and the training safety officer as we go through and analyze how best to provide leadership to the fire department given those parameters. As you know, there are still potential consolidation issues that need to be vetted as part of our ongoing effort to manage the expenditures in this very costly portion of the city's budget. Well, one of the strategies is not to add any additional expenditures based on or other than what has been approved by you in the 2013-2014 budget. The other thing in closing as it relates to the organizational chart is that I mentioned briefly, we'll also be looking at economic development with all of the discussion of the activities, all of the positive things. We've been ready and willing and able to work with anyone who wants to work with us, but we need to tighten up a little bit on our economic development game to make sure we're doing the very best that we can. So when issues are presented, and as you can see, and every one of you has testified, there is a buzz of activity, of redevelopment and activity in the downtown area. But we want to always be sure that we have the ability to be ready when the state calls or there's money, and a lot of that has happened, and it goes back to the tenure of Dr. Odell Thorns. I spent this last year looking at some opportunities to, again, condense and to work towards a better, more functional, and more timely response to economic development issues. Because as you know, in the economic development arena, timing is everything, and people have to feel that there is indeed a welcoming and a collaborative attitude towards getting things done. So that will be our next area of focus, and we will be talking about that more as we go along. But the economic development team that I have in place, Joanne Crary, Bill Ernat, Beth Ernat, Tom Miller Jr., and Steve Jonas have been very instrumental in keeping these projects moving. And we've met on a monthly basis, and there are a lot of things that are going on. We just need to make sure that we're in a position to provide leadership to the development and plans that may come up regarding not only the riverfront, but the entire city of Saginaw. We lost a titan of a developer today, and his family still is interested and committed in helping revitalize Saginaw. So we want to be sure that we are doing all that we can to facilitate those kinds of efforts. So that, in a thumbnail sketch, is basically where we are. I know the question regarding Mr. Ludos's position has been raised. It is a part of the budget. It will remain a part of the budget until such time as some of these other issues are discussed and thoroughly vetted and other decisions are made regarding leadership for the police department, or excuse me, for the fire department. Also, one of the issues that's important here, and people need to understand that, is that we have some obligations as a result of the downsizing. The question came up when we was talk about the SAFER grant and other funds that have been budgeted, but we have payouts and other issues that we have to still account for in 2013, so that as we reach the end of this fiscal year and our books are audited, we will be in a much better position with respect to our current year revenues and current year expenditures at the end of that fiscal year. And we will know more about that, obviously, at the end of this year, which is about the time that the audit will be presented to you. So any new initiatives involving public safety, any changes, dynamic or otherwise, with regards to the staffing structure beyond the 2013-2014 budget will not be brought and presented until after we know what the fiscal year 2013 ultimately is going to look like. So before I bring Brian up to talk a little bit about the issues I asked him to prepare for you this evening, I would entertain any questions you may have regarding going forward, given the termination, if you will, or the end of Mr. Ludos's employment with the city.
Councilman Braddock.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Very good report.
You did a good job of explaining what the dot for the fire chief is on here. What about the health officer under employee services? What is that all about?
That goes back for many years. We put that under there because, as you recall in one of our earlier budget discussions, the charter calls for the city to have a health officer, and we've satisfied that by contracting with, I think it's Covenant that we contract with. Who do we contract with? Covenant, yes, to provide that service. And so because the letter of the law says we're responsible for that, we added that along the box.
Okay, thank you.